When a civilization collapses, we expect chaos. Cities burning, kings murdered, armies crushed. But the Maya didn't fall that way. For nearly 2,000 years, they built some of the most sophisticated cities on Earth. Their pyramids rose like stone mountains above the rainforest. Their astronomers tracked the movements of Venus with a precision modern science only confirmed centuries later. Their architects aligned entire cities with solstices and equinoxes. Their scribes carved history into stone so that memory itself could not die. And yet, between the 8th and 9th centuries, many of their greatest cities were not conquered, not destroyed, but quietly abandoned. Whole capitals emptied over the span of a generation. To understand why a civilization so advanced walked away from its own greatness, we must first understand what made it great. For the Maya, the world was not just physical, it was cosmic. Time did not move forward, it spiraled, it repeated, it echoed. Their calendar system was one of the most sophisticated ever created. Not one calendar, but many. The 260-day ritual calendar, the 365-day solar calendar, the calendar round, and the long count, a timeline spanning more than 5,000 years. The Dresden Codex, one of the only Maya books to survive the Spanish conquest, contains tables predicting solar eclipses, rain cycles, and the complete motions of Venus. To the Maya, these were not just astronomical facts, they were signs from the divine. A king's legitimacy depended on the sky aligning with his birth and his rituals. If the heavens turned against him, his political power cracked. This belief system fueled the rise of Maya civilization, and, much later, helped destabilize it. To understand the collapse, we need to imagine what a thriving Maya city looked like at its height. Tikal may have housed up to 100,000 people. Its temples rose over 70 meters, taller than Notre Dame, built 600 years earlier. White stone causeways, called sakbeob, cut through dense jungle in dead straight lines, connecting cities like arteries. Palenque shined in the west under its greatest ruler, Pakal the Great. When archaeologists opened his tomb in 1952, inside the Temple of the Inscriptions, they found an 18-ton sarcophagus lid, carved with cosmic symbols. Pakal descending into the underworld, surrounded by the Tree of Life. Copan built a staircase carved with over 2,000 hieroglyphs, recording the complete history of its kings. Nowhere else in the ancient world does such a monument exist. Daily Maya life was just as sophisticated. Farmers grew maize, beans, squash, and cacao. Artisans carved jade, obsidian, and shell. Scribes painted books on bark paper. Mathematicians used the concept of zero centuries before Europe. Priests watched the night sky every evening, searching for cosmic order. And ritual tied everything together. Rulers and queens performed bloodletting ceremonies, pulling thorned ropes through their tongues or ears. Their blood was burned, and the rising smoke became a ladder for ancestors to descend. To the Maya, if ritual stopped, the universe itself could unravel. But rituals required spectacle. Spectacle required wealth. Wealth required constant growth. And growth has a cost. The Maya were not a unified empire. They were dozens of rival kingdoms, each claiming divine legitimacy. The greatest rivalry of all was between Tikal, the kingdom of the jaguar, and Calakmul, the kingdom of the snake. For over 130 years, they fought through alliances, proxy wars, dynastic marriages, political intrigue, and ritual humiliation. Each ruler carved monuments proclaiming, "The gods favor me." Each built bigger temples and staged larger ceremonies to prove cosmic approval. Cities demanded more labor, more tribute, more resources. Forests receded, soil exhaustion increased. Reservoirs were pushed to their limits. And then, the climate shifted. Modern paleoclimate research, based on lake sediments, stalagmites, and ancient pollen, reveals a series of devastating droughts between 750 and 900 CE. These were not brief droughts, they were mega droughts, some lasting 20 years. The Maya lowlands depend almost entirely on seasonal rain. There are no major rivers. The limestone soil drains quickly. Cities survive through enormous reservoirs, some engineered with advanced filtration systems using sand and charcoal. But even these reservoirs could not survive decades of drought. Crops failed. Water supplies evaporated. Famine spread. Disease increased. Trade networks collapsed. Populations began to migrate. And the deepest wound was spiritual. If the king truly mediated between humans and gods, why couldn't he bring the rain? Cosmic legitimacy shattered, and when belief collapses, political structures crack with it. Archaeology shows that the Maya collapse was not a sudden explosion, but a slow unraveling. In some cities, construction stopped abruptly. Steely inscriptions end mid-sentence, as if the scribes simply walked away. Palaces were left unfinished, stone tools lying where workers dropped them. In other cities, we see signs of unrest: burned elite residences, hastily built defensive walls, and the disappearance of fine ceramics and prestige goods. But overall, the collapse was not violent. The cities were not destroyed. The people were not wiped out. They simply left. The political and religious system that required enormous cities, enormous monuments, and enormous rituals became unsustainable. Life moved to smaller communities, closer to reliable water, closer to farmland, and less dependent on divine kings and ceremonial architecture. The jungle swallowed the old capitals, but the people did not disappear. More than 6 million Maya live today, speaking over 30 Maya languages, using traditional farming techniques, weaving patterns that encode ancient stories, and performing rituals tied to maize, rain, and ancestors. Their culture endured even though their monumental cities did not. The collapse of the Maya reminds us that civilizations do not always fall in fire. Sometimes they simply step away from the weight of their own grandeur. They don't vanish, they transform. They survive by leaving behind the structures that can no longer sustain them. The Maya show us that brilliance is not enough to guarantee survival, that belief can be absolute yet fragile, that a civilization can map the heavens with astonishing precision and still fade not from defeat, but from exhaustion. What remains is not the stone, but the memory.